almost the entire session that we spent the last time, I was trying to tell you about the various games being played by so-called financial advisors and the financial services industry. And this is a very important lesson to learn very early in your career, even before you venture too deep into your own personal investment. The interests of the financial services industry and your interests almost always diverge. They are not the same. So it is very difficult to locate a financial advisor who will give you advice in your own interest. It's always in their interest or in the interest of the companies that they represent. Let us move ahead today a little bit. I spoke to you the last time about portfolio managers. There are two other categories: small savings agents and cooperative bank staff. In India, there's a very large organization called the NSO, the National Savings Organization. All post office investments like your Kisan Vikas Patra, Sukanya Samriddhi Scheme, Public Provident Fund, and so on, are channeled through this organization. And they are very loosely called small savings. Now, formerly, there were agents who used to collect for small savings, and they used to be paid a commission. Most of those agents and the system of paying commission on small savings has now been done away with. So, a lot of those agents have now disappeared. But when they were in practice, one would generally think that somebody who is telling you to put into the PPF, somebody who is telling you to put into the post office monthly income scheme, these are all government guaranteed safe investments. Yes, they may be taxable, but they have a role to play for somebody who is in the lowest bracket of income tax. What harm could they do? I'll give you one instance. This instance has nothing to do with an agent taking money from people and then running away with it. That too has happened when people were foolish enough to invest in cash. I'm talking about some other kind of investments or operations where wrong advice about the taxability of interest earned on these small savings has been given. I had a case where a client came into my office and told me, I've put so many lakhs into the post office monthly income scheme. It is tax free. I told him, hold on. According to me, it is fully taxable. He says, no. The postmaster told me that it is tax free. The postmasters also of post offices have targets. So I said, I'm very sorry. I took a book by Mr. A.N. Shanbag called In the Wonderland of Investment, a very good book to read for Indian investments. Pointed out the page to him where it says that the interest is fully taxable, took a photocopy of that page and gave it to him. The client was furious. He went back to the post office and confronted the postmaster. The postmaster got very, very nervous. Then he tells the client, no, what I meant was that there is no TDS, tax is not deducted at source. There's a huge difference between something being taxable or tax-free and between whether tax is deducted at source or not. So this kind of misleading information has been given both by small savings agents as well as by staff of cooperative banks. In cooperative banks, there is a double whammy. One is repeatedly they keep telling people that interest earned on fixed deposits in cooperative banks is tax-free. Absolutely false. It is fully taxable. The second way they attract people is cooperative banks give you anything between 0.5% and 1% more than what normal banks would give. So what they don't tell you is that cooperative banks are certainly more risky than the others, because cooperative banks serve two masters. They have an elected board of directors. Very often you will find politicians and a few other undesirable elements sitting on the boards of cooperative banks. Second, they also have to serve the registrar of cooperatives and the RBI. Therefore, there is this dichotomy of interests in cooperative banks. And because they are less safe, because they find it more difficult to attract business or deposits, they are forced to offer a higher interest rate. Otherwise, they need not do it. So, this kind of dangerous advising. Real estate agents, together with insurance agents and stockbrokers, one of the most dangerous breed that you can ever find. I don't want to give you examples because I know that most people have either had bad experiences here or know of people who have had bad experiences. From wrong advice right down to actual criminal collusion with other people to mislead or sometimes to defraud by going to the extent of fabricating documents, title deeds, powers of attorney. This kind of activity takes place in the real estate sphere. You might have read of late that there's a new real estate bill that's been passed. Of course, everything will depend upon its implementation. If it is implemented in the true spirit, yes, buyers of real estate, especially apartments, developed real estate, will be in a much stronger position than they were. So we hope for the best there. But you have to be extremely careful about real estate agents. They are even prepared to legislate, to form their own laws. For example, if by some chance there is a seller of a property who has engaged a real estate agent, now the real estate agent will try to find a buyer. If the real estate agent manages to find a buyer, whether by releasing an advertisement or not, he then attempts to collect brokerage both from the seller and the buyer. If by some chance, at the same time, both the seller and the buyer had engaged the services of this real estate agent, I have no quarrel. Many times it is only one party who has engaged the services of the real estate agent. He tries to force the other people also to pay. When someone engages your services, the relationship is only between those two people. I had a case where one of my clients consulted me. The client was selling a real estate property. Some broker came to know, approached my client and said, I've got a buyer. So the deal was done. Nothing was mentioned about brokerage because my client, the seller, has never engaged him. He brought, okay, we are doing it. Next day, he turns up at his door. I want my brokerage. He said, what do you mean by brokerage? I have not engaged your services. You had somebody who was willing to buy. You never mentioned to me about brokerage at all. If you had opened your mouth, I would have said, go away, I'll find some other buyer. I don't want to pay you brokerage. Not only that, the real estate agent was trying to beat down the price. Just see the irony of the situation here. If I am engaging a real estate broker to sell my apartment, the real estate broker should represent me and do everything possible to give me a better price. Here, in the desperation to clinch the deal, he is trying to beat me down so that his buyer gets a fine price and then trying to collect money from me for actually trying to sell my property at a lower price, not a higher price. So ultimately, I advised my client, tell him nothing doing. You may have your conventions and laws, I have my way of doing it. You turn up once again here, I will engage my lawyer and take action against you. And there the matter ended. So these kind of things happen. The kind of things that I'm giving you are the very low down, mild examples. We have seen cases where very valuable properties, probably worth crores of rupees, owned by someone, that person is not in the same place, maybe outside the city or even abroad. People are actually in collusion with certain agents. They have actually obtained forged title deeds, forged powers of attorney to sell the property. Income tax PAN card has been forged and obtained wrongly. Somebody's signature, somebody else's photograph, sometimes a totally fictitious name. They know how to game the system and use these kind of strategies to defraud people. Relationship managers and other staff of banks. One example I can never forget is, a client of mine retired as a very high up executive, very high up, let's say DGM rank, Deputy General Manager rank of a nationalized bank. So that's a pretty high position to reach at the time of retirement. A very fine gentleman, very intelligent, but unfortunately, by the time he had retired, he was used to the old bank ledger systems. He was not tech savvy. There was a computer in his nice posh cabin which he hardly knew how to use. And after retirement, he used to come and once in a while when he used to talk to me, I found out that his children and grandchildren are in the United States. So I tried to tell him things like email, Skype. I said you can see them, you can be in touch with them much more than now, depending on weekly telephone call. Why don't you, even at this age, try to become computer savvy or learn it? He said, no, I've got a mental block against it. And I got another shock. Although he was a retired banker, he was not even willing to use an ATM card or a debit card. He used to go to the bank for his transaction. He says, somehow I'm not comfortable using any of these things. About a year or two later, the situation changed. I found that this man was actually using or had begun to use a debit card. So I asked him, what is the reason for this transformation? You were telling me, you were swearing that at the age of 60, 61, you're not going to get used to all these things. When you want, you're going to the bank, you're going to withdraw money by a withdrawal slip or a bearer or a self-check. He said, yes, that is what I wanted. And I'm a banker. But I don't know what has happened to our whole banking industry. These days, the moment I enter the bank, I feel I need protection. Because I take one step inside, 2 or 3 people followed me. One person is trying to sell me an insurance policy. Second person is trying to sell me a mutual fund. Third person is telling me open a demat account. Fourth person is telling me something else. And they keep on harassing me. All I want to do is either withdraw some cash or deposit a check or just write up a passbook. That's all I want. I have to fight my way in, I have to fight my way out. Then I realized that if I have a debit card, they have not yet realized that they can have some sales staff even in your ATM room. So until they do that, let me make use of this. And that is what made him start using these things. We have seen the kind of damage done by relationship managers. It's all big fancy titles given by some MBAs. All that they do is they are sales staff. They are the most ordinary sales staff and they are not even good. They are not even good, they are not even convincing, and most of all they are not knowledgeable. All they'll do is try to sell something, try to pester you into selling. So I still remember his words. I had to fight my way in and I had to fight my way out. So to avoid that, I started becoming tech savvy. So we have had these situations, so many situations where wrong advice is given and actual damage is done to people. And then what happens is, after a time, a wrong product is sold. There is no one to set right the issue. And once the product is sold, nobody wants to take responsibility. People repeatedly tell me, I go to the bank, some insurance policy is sold. 2 years, 3 years later, I realize that it's a dud policy. Now I want to get out. When I go there, all faces are new. Either they have been transferred or they have quit the bank and gone. And they say, no, we don't know anything. It was not sold by us. What do you mean not sold by us? Was it sold by the individual or was it sold by the bank? If it is sold by the bank, regardless of who's sitting in the seat there now, the bank is responsible. I am also a partner of an investment firm. I cannot say that, okay, 5 years back, this particular staff of mine told you to do this and you did it. And now that staff has left and gone, I'm not responsible. My firm is not responsible. This is absolutely crazy. It's not only crazy, it's irresponsible, and above all, it's totally unethical. So you have all these kind of specimens scurrying about in the financial services industry. Quality of advice of any professional depends first and foremost on the level of personal commitment. Do I see myself as a professional? Am I a genuine doctor? Is my mission to fight disease in my area of specialization? Is my mission to look after my patient to the extent possible, see that the patient revives and has a good quality of life? Or will I be influenced by gifts, vacations and various other incentives given to me by the pharmaceutical industry? What is my commitment to my profession? It need not be only profession. What is my commitment to my work? To my work ethic? These are very, very important points which I find are just not being discussed or debated today. In the MBA colleges, you will have some chapter on business ethics. It's another X amount of pages to be by-hearted and vomited out during an examination. In the medical line, you have chapters on medical ethics. And the same medical colleges will be doing all sorts of malpractices during inspections, during other things. We have got a large number of doctor clients and they tell me about the same things. But medical ethics is taught. Ultimately, it is not what somebody says, it is what somebody does. The best leadership is leadership by example. Otherwise, it is hypocrisy. We have this mad concept of selling today. I came across, I have not done any, I have no qualifications in marketing, I have not read any marketing textbooks, and I'm very happy about that. But one particular article which I read in 2005 from this magazine called Business World, really interesting. What they do is, what they did is, they presented a study by 3 people. You can see a couple of Indian names there also. They wanted to know how consumers and business professionals, both from the marketing field as well as the non-marketing field, viewed this whole concept of selling. This was the study that they came out with. The results were surprising. Almost 65% of the respondents had a negative attitude towards marketing. Only 8% were positive. It does not mean 65% negative, it does not mean 35% said, no, we are happy with marketing. Only 8% had an actual positive attitude towards marketing. Even among those respondents with a business degree where marketing had been studied, only 10% had a positive view, and a whopping 62% were negative. I'm not against selling. I'm against mad selling. And that's what's this kind of pestering where they make a nuisance of themselves. And where you only try to figure out how to get rid of them as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, this is becoming the norm. This is becoming the norm. Not only in this country, even in the other countries. If someone is selling you a get-rich-quick plan, ask yourself why they sell it. You are bombarded with text messages, emails, telephone calls. Open the financial papers, Economic Times, Business Line, somewhere in the fine print of the classified columns, you will find Nifty trading futures strategy. How somebody has got such a consistent track record of making money. The fraud is so obvious. The fraud is so obvious, but people do not think, that's why they fall for it. What is the obvious fraud there? Let us assume I know a beautiful strategy in derivatives using cash futures or just futures contract where I can consistently make money. I don't mean 10 times out of 10 I'm right, but my track record is 7 to 8 times out of 10 I'm consistently right, which means I'm making money. Am I going to release classified ads or send emails or messages telling people about this and asking for a small little subscription from them to sell them my strategies? What I am going to do is, first and foremost, I am going to be very happy that I stumbled upon this strategy. The first thing I am going to do is I am not even going to tell my wife or my parents about these. I am going to lock myself in a totally soundproof room with a small internet computer, register under some derivatives broker, and I am going to start trading using my strategy. I don't want anybody else to know it. I want to make money out of it because it's that good. And I want to keep on making money out of it, because if I start telling people about it, everybody will start using that same strategy and the advantage will disappear. It is so obvious. It is so obvious. Yet, people see and they register and they fall for it. So, this is a beautiful saying. If someone is selling you a get-rich-quick plan, ask yourself why they need to sell it. Why can't they use it for themselves and get rich quick? Warren Buffett, in the days of junk bonds, some 20 or 25 years back, he said they were sold by those who didn't care to those who didn't think. This is what is happening in the financial services industry. Somebody comes out with some utter rubbish, engages a sales force, gives them incentives, or incentives plus threats, carrot and stick. If you sell X amount, you get incentive. If you fall below a certain level of sales, you lose your job. So carrot and stick. Now go and destroy the world. So they go, keep on selling things without a care about the person who's buying them. So they are sold by people who do not care. Now take the other side. Who are the people buying them? People who don't think. That's why I'm quite merciless. Even the other day, somebody had come who has fallen for some scatterbrained scheme. And they happened to tell me, only later did we know that in the scatterbrained get-rich scheme, those people were collecting our money and hatching a plan to cheat us. I said, hang on, hold it right there. Nobody hatched a plan to cheat you. You hatched a plan to cheat yourself. Let's start with that. You fell for this. How come the whole world did not fall for it, despite the marketing? It's very easy to say, we have lost money, who is to blame? I always say, you are to blame. Who lost money? You lost money. You put money into something stupid. Who is to blame? You are to blame. Why are there still SMSs on your phone that you have won some Coca-Cola lottery, some other thing in Great British pounds? If you take your calculator and calculate it, it will be several hundred, if not 1,000 crores. If somebody is greedy, you are looking at the number of zeros there. You are totally willing to just wipe out the possibility from your mind that this may be a fraud. Why should you be selected out of the 6 billion or so people on the earth to suddenly get this SMS? And doesn't it strike us that this SMS is a bulk SMS? It is sent to 1 million people. I used to always wonder why sometimes the wording of these emails and SMSs is so poor. a former student of mine, one gentleman to my office. The gentleman whom he brought was perhaps in his late 50s, so not some youngster, mature man. And that person is saying, I received this email, which I want you to read. Now, this man and my student are neighbors. The man is trying to borrow 3 lakh rupees from my student. My student has read for what this 3 lakhs is being borrowed and has brought him to me. I read there. It's an email sent by someone who is supposed to be a barrister at law of the United Kingdom. This person has appointed this unknown man from Mangalore as trustee for a very large sum of money, thousands of crores. And for that money is supposed to come to India to be used for charitable purposes. And to receive that money and to see that the money goes to those charitable organizations, this person is going to get a particular fee. The fee itself runs into several hundred crores. And this man is very excited. And he says, yes, I'll be very happy to do it. The moment that goes, slowly the email starts, yes, but we were trying to send you the money, but we ran into some problem. Your Reserve Bank of India raised some objections. You have to pay some money for some registration fees. We can't pay that from here. It has to be paid only in India. Therefore, we want you to send this much of money to our representative there. What is this person thinking? And please note the age. He's almost 60. He's thinking, yes, I have to pay some money, but I'll get 100, 200 times that. He has no money. He's trying to borrow money for this from a neighbor. And the neighbor has brought him to the office. I told him, isn't it obvious to you that it's a fraud? He said, no, it's not a fraud. It's an email addressed to me. My correct email ID has been. I said, yes, your correct email has been written. I didn't say it's a fraud for that. I said, you appear to be a reasonably well-educated man. He's speaking well. Have you read the email from top to bottom? He said, many times. Good. I said, the person writing to you is a barrister at law. Barrister at law is the highest form of UK lawyers. Have you seen the number of spelling and grammatical errors in these 3 paragraphs? A barrister of law would be educated to that extent, his English would be perfect. This person can walk into an English literature class, forget about law, and discuss very intelligently on any of Shakespeare's plays. That is the level of their education. And a barrister of law has written this clumsy, meaningless, very defective email, not good in language, not good in grammar, not good in structure. It didn't strike you that this could never have been written by a barrister at law? You will not believe it. Nobody looks at that. People are looking at the number of zeros in the figure there. This is what happens when somebody is greedy. I was not able to convince him. He left my office virtually angry with me that I am trying to come in between him and his fortune. Why? I have not received the email, you see. He has received it. I'm jealous. I'm trying to say. But I was able to do only this much. I don't know what happened to the story finally, but I was able to do this much. My student did not give him any money. That much of good was done. What happened to this man and how the story ended, I am afraid, because I never knew him. It was only a one-time encounter. I used to always wonder, why is the quality of emails sent to take money from you so poor? I had no answer to this. If I were trying to get money from someone, I would take a lot of trouble in drafting a very nice, convincing email. Why is it so poor? Why is it so poor? And I had no answer to this at all. Until one day, I read an article about this very racket in The Economist. And then I realized how much we need to think. You know what the Economist had written? The exact question that I was dealing with. Many people wonder why the quality of these kind of emails soliciting you for these kind of traps is so poor. It is deliberate. It is deliberate. The people who write these kind of things and do this are not unintelligent. They are quite intelligent. Their language skills may be much better. They deliberately send these kind of emails. You know why? They do not want thinking people, intelligent people to fall for these traps. Because it is very difficult to take money out of thinking people. They may send a letter, okay, I'm interested. What next? What next? Then when it comes to actually parting with money, they will not part money. Who will part money? The fools. How do you identify the fools? Send them very poorly drafted mails. If somebody falls for that mail, despite the signature then being of a barrister of law, that means that person is an idiot. We want them because from them quickly we will get money from them. You see the intelligence. So, there's great intelligence in criminal activity. And I myself could not figure this out till I got this piece of information from The Economist. I used to do this much of thinking. Yes, the barrister of law is very poorly drafted. It is fraud. Okay. Their conclusion, case dismissed. I've got my next job to be done. But why is it so poor? I could not figure out till I read this. So, those who didn't care to those who didn't think. People do not think, and when they don't think, they fall for this, and our thought processes can get severely handicapped when we are greedy. All of us are greedy. I will write and give you under my signature that I am greedy. That is a human trait. There is no harm in it. Can we keep our greed within a reasonable amount of control? This is the question. If we can do so, it's fine. If we let the greed get the better of us, then the greed is going to take over our minds. And then we are staring down financial Armageddon. So, moving ahead, Peter Drucker, who's a managing expert on sales, he says, the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits him and sells itself. Very true. I said I'm not a marketing expert, but this is one thing that struck me as true. I have seen good financial advisors in action. They are not bothered about selling anything. They are bothered about the client who is sitting in front of them. What are your needs? What is your situation? What is your income? What are your expenses? How do we judiciously use your income first to take care of necessary expenses, to see that unnecessary expenses are not incurred, to see that there is a surplus available at regular intervals, maybe monthly intervals. Now, how is that surplus to be channeled to take care of your financial needs, to build something for the future, to take care of future needs that may crop up, to take care of emergencies? Do you need insurance? What kind of insurance do you need? In short, the financial advisor is not using financial knowledge here as much as using or trying to ask questions or trying to understand and get aware of the client's situation. That's what he's saying here, is to know and understand the customer so well. The moment the financial advisor has reached a stage where I know all that is required to be known about this person, suddenly the rest of it are the only means to an end. Okay, you know where to put the fund to meet emergencies, you know where to invest for retirement, you know where to invest for other purposes, you know what questions to ask. It just falls in place. There is no selling. There is no selling. It's pure and simple consulting. So this is also a beautiful saying. Unfortunately, we don't see this happening in the financial services industry. Warren Buffett. There's been far, far more money made by people in Wall Street through salesmanship abilities rather than through investment abilities. Bonuses, incentives, appraisals, your promotions, all these things depend upon performance. And sales performance always trumps investment performance. How good you are at selling is very important. So many people lose money and come. And they tell me, I said, how could you fall for this? How could you fall for? No, I had come here before, but you all just told me you were talking about 12%, 13%. I went somewhere, there was 30%, 40%. 30, 40 is more than 12, 13. I went there. And then they come back with 30, 40, generally with a minus sign in front. And this tragedy is played out repeatedly. Narayan Murthy always says, always under-promise and over-deliver. If you calculate the Sensex returns from 1979, from the time they first started calculating the Sensex till today, you'll get a figure of something like 15.4, 15.45% compounded annualized per annum. You may not get these returns in the future. We always tell people, lower your expectations. If you have seen 15 figures there, look at the inflation rate. Is inflation going to remain high? If it is going to be lower in the future, then your returns are also from the stock market going to be lower. Be satisfied if they are a few percentage points higher than inflation. That's all you need to be worried about. If an advisor says expect about 12%, and hopefully inflation will be lower than that, and you manage to give the client 13 or 14%, that is okay. But promising somebody 20%, delivering the same 11 or 12 or 13%, that is not okay. Don't build up people's expectations. That's what I always tell financial advisors. Always under-promise and over-deliver. It's a very good, it's a very conservative approach. Warren Buffett, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you will do things differently. In the financial services, no one is bothered about their reputation. They are bothered about how much we sold, and at the end of the day, how much of brokerage we are getting. The cheapest commodity in the world is investment advice from people not qualified to give it. This is worldwide. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Jeremy Siegel, stupidity well packaged can sound like wisdom. I've had so many people tell me, your investment papers, yes, they are okay, but they are on a A4 size paper and printed from an ordinary computer printer, very clumsily and in an ugly manner, spiral bound, and just flung at people. Can't you make it a little glossy and beautiful? I always tell people, I'm looking for clients. I mean, that was when I was looking for clients who will fall for the content of papers, not the form. There are always two things, even in public speaking, the form and the content. Content is always more important. Form helps you to deliver it better. Yes, I agree with that. But in the financial services industry, you will see the pamphlets, brokers' research report, lot of color, lot of meaningless bar charts, which nobody reads or nobody can read, pie diagrams, this percentage, that percentage, mathematical formulae. Everything is designed to fool you. Everything is designed to make you think that these are really brilliant people. But from cover to cover, what is inside is pure and unadulterated garbage. Nobody realizes that. It's glossy, it's attractive, it's colorful. It's not plain, old, boring, black and white. Stupidity, well packaged, can sound like wisdom. A beautiful saying. So let's conclude this session where we started it. I told you one very, very important piece of advice that every investor must know. Never expect an investment advisor to take greater interest in your money than you yourself have a duty to take. It is your money, your responsibility, your duty to get the basic knowledge. The fact that you're attending sessions like this, it shows at least you have got that inclination to do this. So this is one of the most important things. If you do not do that, this slide also that I presented, when a person with experience meets a person with money, the person with the experience gets the money, and the person with money gets the experience.